You want to get wired?
I'm with you. Okay, we're on.
We run out of sections here.
Yeah, we did. We ran out of date cards, didn't we?
Yeah.
Do you need some blank pieces of paper so you can take some notes? I can give you 2. That's all I can give you.
That'll be enough.
There you go.
Do more than that, it's wasting too much time. Call this.
All right. We're going to call this meeting to order of the Electric Services Assessment Steering Committee meeting for this, the 16th day of March. I'd like to make a couple of announcements, especially for those council people that are here with us today. And please note this, and I hope you all have, I know some of you have been involved in these discussions. The PJM and AEP representatives that we've been trying to schedule for some time to talk to us about transmission costs and congestion charges, but particularly the transmission issues, are going to be with us next Monday, the 23rd, at our regular Utility Commission meeting. So we certainly want our council members of this committee to be with us next Monday at 4 o'clock, and that'll be across the hall, or it may be here, but I don't know. It'll be right here on this floor. And that's a meeting that I think there's a lot of interest in, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot about transmission, another important part of this cost puzzle we have. On April the 13th, we will be having a meeting at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. And it's an important meeting because hopefully we're going to finish our SWOT today, and we're going to move in to really sitting down and crafting a report with some recommendations and actions that we can discuss with City Council and move on to the Utility Commission so that we can make some. That's the 13th of April.
We'll go at 10?
At 10 a.m. And we're probably going to be here for a while. Issues, actions, and recommendations to council and to the Utility Commission, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with some concrete recommendations that we can start implementing and move forward with. All right. And one other thing I'd like to say to you. The Hometown Connections Review, the report that we got, I want everybody to remember that. Please think about it, look at it if you want to. I believe there's a lot of information in there, and there's a structure to the way that report was written that I believe is going to be very helpful to us when we begin our discussions on April the 13th. So I would just commend everyone to read that, but think about it, and maybe even bring that with you on the 13th, because it breaks down the various activities and operations of Danville Power and Light, and it'll give us some structure as we go through these this final push to have these recommendations. Okay, roll call.
Phil,
Excuse me.
question on your announcement earlier. We meeting Monday the 23rd?
Monday the 23rd is the Utility Commission meeting. The PJM and AEP people are going to be here, and I wanted you all to be sure you all were invited
we could attend
to
to
that.
you because
That's at 4 o'clock. That is the Utility Commission meeting.
Right, I got you.
The next time we're going to meet is April the 13th at 10 o'clock for our beginning of the issues, actions, and recommendations.
Okay.
All right. Can you call the roll, please, and we'll move on.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Turpin?
Here.
Mr. Shanks? Mr. Gilstrap?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Here.
All right, thank you. And now we'll begin with our continuation of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats assessment. We began this some time ago, but due to weather and holidays and scheduling, it has taken us a while to get back to this. Certainly it was an important part of this whole process, and Kevin Sperling is back with us again. And Kevin, if you will begin.
Okay, thank you all for having me back. I think what we wanted to do, it's been a while since you've looked over these maybe, is to take some time to review the strengths and weaknesses. I start with the strengths, and I have those listed here for you to look over. Be happy to read them off if you want me to, or I can just give you a minute to scan over those if you like. And you should also have a copy, a hard copy if you want one. I brought some of those as well. I'm sure you may have some. So do you want to take just a second and read over the strengths quickly, or I could read them off, whatever the pleasure of the committee. There's two items that you may want to consider as you look over those. One is if you want to add any others. I know you discussed these quite length the last time. Wouldn't want to discourage you to do that, but what we really would like to do is add new pieces to this if you've thought of things since, and continue the brainstorming, if you will, and maybe focus on that maybe more so than discussion. Also, we can consolidate any of these if you would like to do that, if you think there's commonality, or we can leave as is. Just however we can help you collect your thoughts on this. So.
I'd like to say that one of the strengths, I believe, is our opportunity. We have some opportunities here, which I know we're going to get into that soon, but I believe one of the strengths that we have that we didn't have when you were here last is we have a clearer understanding of what internal rate of return means. What I'm trying to say is we have a clearer understanding of what we have a better set of indicators for making capital purchase decisions, capital asset purchases.
Okay.
Can I say that better? I probably can.
Okay.
Clearer requisites for capital purchases, asset purchases.
Clearer requisites for capital asset purchases.
Right.
Okay.
There's a difference between clearer and clear.
They're a lot clearer.
But it's not, does that mean it's not clear?
Well, I don't want to use the word clear
Because if it's not clear, that would be a weakness.
Well, I don't want you to think that the previous requisites were muddy. I don't cast any aspersions.
Okay.
I'll add a strength. We have
Down there.
we have a relatively strong balance sheet.
Strong balance sheet. Any others? Whenever you all feel like we can move ahead or we can look for commonalities here, I don't want to rush you or put any time limits, but we'd love to get to the opportunities and threats. So whenever you're comfortable with what you see.
I'd be interested if staff thinks we left any out.
What about our consultant ability as far as financials, our expertise, the advice that we get from our rate consultants
Where do you want to put that?
as a strength?
Okay.
That's a matter of opinion.
Put that plus or minus.
Okay. And that was advice from rate consultants with a question
Or
mark.
consultants in
You
general.
mean our current rate consultants, not our past rate consultants?
Yeah, good point.
You know, and assume the current's good. At least at this
Okay.
point in time.
I'll try to capture everything and I'll do you want me to put a question mark there with that one? Or?
Well, no, I mean,
Leave it like it
the
is.
fact that we use rate consultants is a wise thing because we don't have the capability ourselves.
Okay.
And I think that's important.
I'd like to add a weakness. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not there yet. You're still strengthening.
Yeah, we'll steer on.
I'd like to ask
strengths.
Bill to explain strong balance sheet. What do you mean?
A strong-
Bottom line?
We have, if you look at our capital asset structure and you look at our cash position, and also referring to our rate consultant, we have a strong balance sheet which allows us to borrow at a very reasonable rate
Okay.
in the bond market today.
Is there anything there that I need to capture as far as that clarification?
No.
Okay. Any others?
No.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move on.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll pull these and keep these posted for you. The weaknesses are just underneath, so you can look at those, start to review those. Had a few more, so I'll put this one weakness over here for you to review.
Well, I notice we have Prairie State on there as a weakness. At the very least, it probably ought to be a question mark. I don't know whether that's necessarily a weakness.
Okay.
Difference of opinion, I think.
Do you want to put it as a strength too?
I could put it on both if you'd like.
Pardon?
I was going to say, does Mr. Turpin want to put it as a strength also?
Yeah.
Okay. Be glad to do that. Because sometimes we do find that there are situations where something can have both positive and negative parts to it, so. And I'll just, so it's both a strength and a weakness. Any others or any more definition or clarification?
Everything okay?
I would suggest we consider that we have very little control over the rates.
Okay.
and transmission charges.
Especially that.
Very little control over the transmission charges
Rates
as
and
well?
transmission.
Okay.
That's part-
So
good
just
part
add that to this? Okay.
Maybe it should be very little control over the cost of supply, not necessarily rates.
Okay.
Cost
we-
of supply.
Yeah, we have that. Any others?
Let's see.
Let's look at here.
Communication between the commission and council. Is that on there? Communications between council and commission.
Okay. Communication between the council and the commission. All of those, everybody remember what we were talking about on all those? None that we need clarification or to be reminded of what we were talking about?
Well, going back to the, how should we saw it? The organizational checkup, there's a couple that are on here, maybe we can move over.
Okay.
See, I listened, Philip.
Thank you very much,
Right
Bill.
There was some concern about employee safety in the area of disaster planning and drilling.
Employee safety? Okay.
And then disaster planning and drilling is below that? There's a
Disaster.
subset, sub-bullet of that?
Growing is what you, disaster planning.
Drilling, D-R-I-L-L-I-G, not growing, excuse
Oh,
me.
sorry.
I apologize, I'm not speaking loudly. And then
D-R-I,
D-R-I-L-L, like drill, baby drill?
drill, right.
Yeah. Lack of a technology roadmap. Employee morale.
Put this one. See some nods. Looks good.
Yep,
Let's get on.
it's good.
Mr. Turpin, Mr. Gilstrap, these, any others?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we can move on to the external forces, and I'll keep these up so that you can refer back to these. And the next one, hopefully, is one you've been looking forward to, which is the opportunities. And, just keep in mind that these are the external, and not so much the internal, the current state. So I'll switch out here and we'll start talking about the opportunities.
Well, I guess the opportunities would be the solution to the weaknesses. But I don't like that. That's sort of a general
That's kind of the big
statement, yeah. We certainly need to try to, I guess I need to combine two together. We need to, they're interrelated. We need to obtain a lower cost supply from in-state and south of us, if at least explore it. And we need outside expertise, consultant to guide us in this endeavor.
Okay. So as far as capturing those, do you want to do those as two separate ones then?
Well, they're tied together, but
We can
I
list
think
them.
they're tied together. We need to explore lower cost supply in-state and south of us.
Closer proximity, right?
Explore low cost supply in proximity, or
Yeah.
that work?
In-state or
In-state or?
south.
In-state or south.
Maybe
Okay.
put dash using outside consultants for guidance in this endeavor.
Okay. Other opportunities, and just again, keep in mind, you made the comment about addressing the weaknesses in that broad statement, and part of why we keep the strengths and weaknesses up is, what strengths can you leverage to do that with?
Well, I guess I'm struggling with opportunities. Is that defined as opportunities if we continue as we are, or is that opportunities if we sell the utilities? Which opportunities are we referring to here?
I think that's up to the committee, but I would say all opportunities are on the table.
Right.
Well, it's opportunities to do what's best overall for the city and the customers. And whether or not selling the unit is that's the best or not, that's still debatable.
Right.
But
So we want to do what's best and improve things for the customers in the city. That's the goal.
And I think that's an opportunity.
Okay. Which selling is one of the options as
No, I don't think sell is an opportunity.
Okay.
I think doing what's best for our customers is an opportunity. Determining what's best for our customers.
And I guess I would just remind you, to continue to think about in terms of the external as well.
One of our weaknesses, we generate very little power. We buy from other places that are a long distance away. And we talked about putting in, I guess, generation stations. Is that what the term for it here? There might be an opportunity for that.
Okay.
Generate power close by.
install generation behind the gate.
Right.
And I would encourage you, throw out, this is more of a brainstorming session.
Let me, could I clarify that?
Yes.
Is that generation of more power?
Any power. Well, we have a little bit now, but not much.
But we're talking about more,
we're talking about
generation of
generations.
more.
Generation
And
station.
also, I would add to that of evaluating different sources of power.
Other suppliers.
Pardon?
Other suppliers.
Yep.
Different sources, which could include a number of things, potentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to exclude anything.
You all are talking about the different fuel sources.
Yeah.
You're talking about gas versus
Talking
wind versus
gas,
hydro.
coal, hydro,
Right.
whatever.
You can put that in brackets, gas.
That's the
Okay.
power portfolio.
I would think coal, hydro, wind, solar.
Okay.
And, you know, there's a lot of solar that's been installed just across the border in North Carolina. Would be very interesting to understand what rates those are providing power at. Should be able to get that information relatively easily.
You know, that this line that we're on, and I think it's a good line of inquiry. It really does go back to having somebody come in here, a national power consultant that has this kind of information and this experience to help us share that, get that information to us, so we can start making some better decisions. Having more information from a power consultant.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's, you've got to have a source of this knowledge, and we really don't have that at this time.
We said using outside consultants.
Right.
In that endeavor.
Yeah.
Which would include efficient operations.
Correct.
Okay. More information from outside power consultant.
We could establish a demand management program.
Establish a demand management program.
To include residential and commercial. Right now, it just, if I'm not mistaken, is our industrials, large industrials.
I don't know if this is where we are right now, but one thing we were wanting to look at is to see if we need to diversify. In other words, we have our industrial and residential all together, whether we want to provide other suppliers just for the industrial. We talked about that, you know, Appalachian Power, whoever, doing the large industries and us getting out of that business. So it's an opportunity to look at that.
Okay.
That would be
What would that be?
yeah, that would be basically sell off the industrial business, or do you want to continue to provide the local distribution for the industrials? There's both options, right?
Right.
And we could capture both. Okay. So sell off the industrial.
It's an opportunity to look at it. We're just, that's our opportunity.
I would think, I was going to suggest that we want to endeavor to help the industry to a lower price. We might want to provide a transportation rate, allow them to seek their own source. That would be my first option.
So let's put that one down.
The second option would be if we have to give up service area, that would be the last.
So for instance, we could say it like this: using our gas business model, provide transportation only for large electric industrial users.
So provide,
Because we have a precedent of doing that. We do that in our gas business very successfully.
okay. Just repeat that so I make sure I capture that the way you want it. Providing for the industrial.
Provide transportation service for large industrial users, for them to obtain their own source of power. and we just transport it within the city.
And just put in brackets, like gas business, because we do that.
Okay.
We charge a transmission. We charge some transmission charge.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the
You
other
get the same
options,
Been doing that for 20 years.
yeah. Dr. Miller, do you wanted to capture yours now, or is that?
We could sell our industrial distribution rights in our industrial parks to Appalachia.
Sell industrial distribution,
are
do you want me
doing
to include?
Right. So industrial distribution rights,
Right.
RIGHTS. It's close enough. Sell industrial distribution rights in parks to APCO. APPCO.
AP. Okay.
We speaking industrial only or our large customers?
Well, in that case, you would take your, we would actually be able to sell our local transmission or distribution grids in those parks and sell that to AEP. That, you know, we would obviously get compensated for that, a one-time gain. I think it's more difficult if we begin to try to sell the rights to distribute kind of outside of those parks.
We've really got to follow a geographical,
Yeah.
That's what we're selling. We're selling the rights to a geography, to a piece of land, that it's tied to a substation. I believe that's correct. That's what you'd be doing. And the industrial parks are obviously already,
Target.
we know where they are.
They have
They're
boundaries.
clearly identified.
Clearly have boundaries. We know what our asset costs are in there, relatively speaking. We can value them, not just for the current business, but for the future business and the infrastructure that's been installed.
And those are the customers that's, the big volume customers that we seem to have a problem competing with the big IOUs. So it's a natural fit.
Well, you know, we have to keep in mind when we looked at our rates, while our rates are relatively even with other municipality rates in Virginia for our residential customers. Right?
I know we need to consider that, but we also need to be aware, if we sell that, we're going to lose margin. And therefore, we're either going to have to deal with less revenue or pass the lost margin on to other customers.
Yeah. And that's something I'd like to know. You know, Joe King gave us a number. If we sold off the entire utilities, we'd have to raise property tax at 43 cents, real estate tax at 43 cents. Well, if we just sold off the industrial part of it, do you have any numbers on that?
We did an analysis if we lost the top 3 or 4 industrial customers, and it would warrant I think a 4% increase, 4 or 5% increase.
4 or 5%.
Yeah. I don't know what that equates to tax revenue.
Was there a commensurate reduction in overhead assumed, or did we assume our overhead was going to stay the same with a reduction in usage?
Right.
Well, and there's some other costs that you need to take, I believe you take into
That'd be
consideration
stranded
that would
costs.
be reduced.
Right.
You'd have power cost reductions, and depending on how you
Eventually.
went back and looked at that power portfolio, you may take out a lot of 24/7 power, base power that you could pull out. It's going to change your capacity charges. There's there are lots of different moving parts to that, I would think. Plus, you want to recover your stranded. You're going to recover your stranded costs on the infrastructure you've put in place in those industrial parks. So, is that true? Do you agree with that, Jason?
Plus unrecovered power cost.
Right.
Well,
So, you know, I'm not so sure, to go back to your question, that I don't know that we know exactly what it is, but I would say that you're not talking about a big hit to lose those industrial customers. If you took into account all the economies you would pick up from not having to purchase all that power.
We're talking about 2 or 3
substations.
cents or something like that, but you're saying we might recover some of that.
Excuse me?
Well, it's about, he said, 2.5% or 4%, 3 or 4%, it's only about 3 cents.
4 or 5.
4 or 5%.
Okay.
4 or 5% of the total.
Yeah, I can't remember the
It's about $5
exact
million.
details of that analysis, but we can bring it back for the 13th
Yeah.
meeting.
Be a good number to know.
Yeah, and it would be, I think you've looked at this for me somewhat before, but it would be good to know what the current book value is, and what the replacement value is of the infrastructure that's been invested. Because we're going to have a commensurate, that's going to kind of give us a target of what we would have to recover in a sale, absolute minimum. Got to get the fixed costs recovered. But more importantly, there is a recapitalization that's needed to maintain that over time.
So other options?
We limited, we can only sell to AEP for our local, the parks, you can't.
Well, we could sell it to AEP or perhaps Duke.
Or Duke Energy,
Yeah.
God forbid. I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did. I heard you.
Would you agree, though, that ideally, it would be best if we could determine a way to lower the large industrial utility costs without having to go through all this?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. In a perfect world, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, here I see us, okay, we're going to give them an option to get their source elsewhere, save them money on their utilities, but then we're going to turn around and increase their machinery and tools tax.
Right,
So they're paying us the same amount of money.
right.
So ideally, we'd want to keep the machinery and tool tax the same and reduce their utility cost.
Yep.
That was just an observation.
Right. Any other opportunities?
I think we have opportunity. I think that the utility, speaking through the utility commission, has an opportunity to lay out a more structured relationship with the owner, the city.
Okay.
Well, since employee morale is a weakness, we at least have opportunities to improve that. We need to improve that. And the negative public perception, we need to improve that.
Right. That's very important.
I'll capture those as two separate ones.
And then, again, we've tried it again and again, but we need to improve the information to the public to, one of our weaknesses is the poor housing stock, the old houses that, need refurbishing, need to be insulated. We need to redouble our efforts to get people to do that.
Okay.
So we have opportunity to do that. It's not easy, but we need to do it.
I think we have you want to the next one yet?
You want that?
Yeah, I'll put that in there too.
So that would be kind of an outreach effort with,
We've got that, but we need to lengthen our outreach, do whatever it takes. We need to keep after that.
You almost have to incentivize them some way.
Yes, and you have to incentivize people.
We're going to have to incentivize weatherization of public housing.
do you want me to say increase or do you want me to say incentivize? Or
Either way.
improve or incentivize? Just
Do,
improve.
do a slash. I mean, it's not working now, so.
What, incentive program?
Well, the incentive program's really not being utilized for, rental homes.
Right, that's where the weakness is, yeah.
And the weakness is in our rental stock.
And well,
And that's a whole.
that's a
we
general
need-
government services issue to me. I'm not so sure that the power, the local electric utility is supposed to get into the business of rehabilitating the rental housing stock in the community.
Yeah,
Their
but-
job is to create some good power, reliable power.
I would-
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I would have that opinion if we were sitting here as the commission for AEP, but we're not. We're the commission, representing the commission for Danville's city's utility business. We're somewhat tied into that, aren't we?
Yep.
Like it or not.
I'll just stick it right here for right now.
I would think we would have an opportunity to evaluate our relationship with PJM and AMP.
Right.
Amen. Whoever PJM is.
Evaluate relationship.
Nebulous.
Those are good
PJM
I
No
know.
accountability,
and AEP.
no
You just
responsibility.
get paid a lot of money to do something.
Okay.
AEP. Did you
AEP.
say AEP
He said
or
AMP.
AEP?
I said AMP.
I'm sorry.
And we want to get up there. We have an opportunity to improve energy efficiency in our public housing stock. Let's call it our rental stock.
In the rental.
We talk about generation of power. I think over here we were talking about generation of baseload power,
Okay.
but we also have an opportunity to acquire and operate peak shaving assets.
Any other opportunities?
Well, I would say we have opportunity to make recommendations that will affect our utilities services for many years.
Okay. Long term.
One quick opportunity was highlighted by the assessors, and that's to simplify our bills.
Simplify your base.
Simplify our bills.
Amen.
They are very
I
complicated.
can't figure them out. Mike does, but I can't.
I can't. Wife does. Bills.
Bills,
Our bills.
Bills.
statements that we send out to the public.
I apologize.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
One thing that keeps coming up that is a concern, and I don't know exactly how to state it, maybe simplify our contribution to the general fund policy, or clearly establish it.
Okay. Any others we need to throw up? So all these will go into the hat that you all mold your recommendations out of.
I'd like to add, we need to improve the process whereby we select our capital projects, our asset purchases. Going back to what I said earlier, somewhere over here.
Okay.
We need to improve the process of asset purchases.
I thought you were going to say improve process of selecting directors. We've had tremendous turnover.
I was getting ready to say that, but I haven't quite decided. But because we're talking about two things. With all respect to Jason, who is doing a great job. Jason is director of utilities, of all the utilities. The Danville Power and Light does not have a director right now. There's nobody in that slot. And that's, this is a really bad situation. And we've got to do a better job. And I believe the Utility Commission needs to be more involved in that process and having some oversight and some care in taking care of that problem. Because it's a real problem.
How much input do y'all have? I mean, how powerful?
We don't have any input.
None at all?
No.
We haven't been having it.
Well, that's the problem then. Because it's obviously what we're doing is not working right now, or hasn't worked for the
I
last several
think
years.
it's in the original bylaws that the commission's supposed to have more input, but it hasn't been done.
Okay, that's a problem.
The ordinance says may be consulted. It does not say shall be consulted. So, that leaves it open.
I recommend you put that in there because, whether you
greater involvement of the Utility Commission in the
selecting directors.
in selecting directors.
I think council could change that may to will.
Probably be happy to.
So greater involvement of the Utility Commission.
Want to go ahead? Oh, Floor's got some suggestions. Public, you want to let the public?
On selecting directors. Well, from a personnel standpoint, would you want to go back and add an opportunity as far as the staff? The opportunity for the manager or whatever?
I don't think we want to get into the staff.
Do we want to, I'm asking this as a question to the committee, say anything in opportunities about developing a strategic plan? So I would say opportunity would be developing a strategic plan.
Ongoing strategic planning process.
Putting that process in place.
Development, yeah.
Process in place to develop.
Developing a long-term strategic plan process. Making a promise that just because we had these meetings, they will not be forgotten and the process won't be forgotten. Which sometimes happens. I think we have another opportunity here, and it may be an opportunity we have not particularly talked about in weaknesses, but I believe we have an opportunity here, and it was mentioned earlier, technology, to improve the whole distribution system. I mean, I'm sure that there's some operations issues, there's some issues about the way we handle, we've had a situation where we've talked about some payment problems here in the last couple of months. We've got, whether or not we used job orders, what kind of system does the job order system look like? And well, we use enough technology in order to put the right people in the right place to do the right repairs. Is their inventory system tight? Just regular business issues, how you would run a business. I'm not sure that we have really spent a lot of time thinking about business practices improvement in the last 4, 5, 6 years. So the opportunity is to improve the business practices of the organization.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of action steps, potential strategies. Again, are there other external things that are opportunities, things from outside influences that could bear in here?
Well, we have the long-term outlook for gas prices, which is potentially in our favor.
Should I put favorable long-term?
And at least 2 more pipelines. For gas, natural gas.
For gas.
This probably would apply to all the utilities, but, and we're in the process of doing a rate study, but I think we need to have a rate policy that determines when rate increases are needed. We need triggers or guidelines to determine that. And I think we're getting that from current consultants. But we need a policy that kind of applies that and implements it.
It's after opportunities, plan.
So triggers, guidelines, or just overarching policy for rating?
Rate increase.
Rate increase.
I'm not sure if it's come up yet or whether it even falls in this category, but it would seem that exploring the possibility of providing an asset, an electric utility asset within our footprints of the service area. For instance, some type of
I think that's up there.
it is up there already?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Over there.
You just can't see it. It's
I briefly went through what's up there and I didn't see it.
It's over there.
Yeah, we've got them scattered about.
Yeah, there's some over here.
This one didn't really stick very well.
And then you can't see that one.
And then over here,
I'll
I
re-
could cover that one.
That's all right.
Over here.
I'll catch up.
I hate to mess up your fine furniture with tape. So.
It's not there.
What's the T?
Are we okay with the opportunities?
Threats time.
What's next?
Do you want to?
Does
Do you wanna-
anyone from the audience have anything they'd like to say about this?
I'd like to throw one to you. One of the opportunities that you've got is to get the full integration of AMI meter services, where the meters get the full integration back. Right now, Danville Utility is mainly using them for non-pay shutoffs, but getting the bidirectional communication from AMI back will help you in outage analysis and also let your customers be more proactive in knowing what energy and demand is being used.
Full integration of AMI, which is
So improving the
automated.
business practices and also the issue that was brought up earlier about technology, using our technology to its full extent.
Yeah, that technology
But we
roadmap.
certainly want to, that was a large investment and we need to be using those as efficiently as possible. Thank you. Okay? Any more opportunities? Move on to threats.
Okay. This here. Okay, threats. And again, just remember the external forces here.
Well, the biggest single threat is remaining non-competitive on our electric rates to our customers,
Larger customers.
all of our customers, commercial, residential, industrial.
Okay. Remaining uncompetitive.
Remaining, somehow overcoming the fact that we are no longer competitive in our rates to those customers.
So this would be the threat.
It's one of our weaknesses, it's one of our biggest weaknesses, but also one of our biggest threats.
I thought we just said a while ago, we're very competitive on our residential. It was our larger customers we aren't competitive in. Is that not a factual?
I think that's what you're referring to more.
He said residential also.
I thought we were still high on the high end of residential as well. Are you saying? we're
Not really.
Residential, we're competing.
Competitive with the municipal, with a body of municipal utilities in Virginia.
But it's still a threat we might become non-competitive.
Correct.
Right.
If we were to
Absolutely.
lose industrial customers, that would have to be offset by residential.
Then I would agree with just take the word remaining. The threat would be
Becoming
uncompetitive.
for residential and remaining uncompetitive for industrial.
Right.
So how about I just do two, remaining competitive for industrial, becoming for residential?
Industrial/commercial.
Okay.
Try to pull out that data. It's in the November meeting.
Okay, others?
I guess it's a threat. Prairie State is a threat. I mean, right now we're hoping they'll become competitive, but
You mean environmentally or?
no, we're always worried that they're going to
It's performance
performance might
versus plan.
might underwhelm us or might not come up to what they say. It's a threat. I mean, and might end up paying them more.
Prairie State, regulation, performance, regulatory performance. You're talking about air pollution requirements.
Yeah, but what if, I'm trying to say, I mean, is there any possibility of any more cost overruns or any more additional cost for that facility, or we past that problem?
Well, we pay debt service for that ownership, and then we pay for the energy and the transmission for the generation that we're subscribed to.
So we're locked in. We don't have a threat from them. It ended up costing us more than we think it's going to cost.
It's been touched on here, but one of the big threats is the remaining, or the continual regulation of both environmental, well, in particular coal, but all environmental regulations. And I'm not saying they're bad, I'm saying they're a threat.
I think you're saying they're bad.
And then there's the threat of transmission and transportation charges. We're always under the gun for that. I mean, we're just, well, they can increase it when they want to.
That's correct.
If they decide they want to up their rates for transportation, they do it.
Okay. Things outside your control.
Well, I believe those transmission and transportation charges are regulated to some extent. I think FERC and the State Corporation Commission regulates those. I mean, they can still apply, but you got to challenge them in court or in the hearings.
You might lose.
You go, huh?
Then it's a threat. They don't have
Yeah, it's a threat they can
Yeah, I mean,
apply for.
the only thing we can appeal to is FERC. And I don't think we have any real ability to appeal to FERC. We're just a minnow in the lake.
No control over rates.
Another threat is, you know, the continued shutdown of coal-fired assets in the region.
And a gas plant not being completed.
Yep.
Or lack of generation during peak times.
You want to add that one?
Yes.
Lack of generation during peak times.
Right.
Well, along with the two above that, continued shutdown of coal-fired assets is a threat, but also similar threat is the fact that no new coal assets are being constructed. I don't believe there's a single one under construction now, is there? I think the last one that was under construction is no longer on the board.
That's right.
And coal, I mean, let's face it, when we move away from coal, we're moving away from reliable, inexpensive electricity.
Cheaper power. Yep.
Jason, did you mean no lack of generation during peak times on the Danville system or on the?
I was referring to PJM last
Oh, really?
winter.
Okay,
The
so
lack of gas supply
So
for,
the system as a whole?
yeah.
Right. Yeah, are you aware of, with the branch going to the Dominion power plant, what type of capacity utilization the Chatham facility for Williams is going to be operating at? Which is where we draw our gas out of?
Well, Transco is going to soon have reverse flow where it's south to north now because of the fracking. So that will help.
That should alleviate that
Yeah.
problem.
I think it possibly be a threat that we lose economic development because of our high, large commercial and industry rates.
Oh, yeah,
Pardon?
absolutely. You can't be trying to attract plastics and polymers, which is one of our economic development policies with the kind of rates we have. Ain't nobody gonna come here. Not gonna happen. I mean, it's when your largest cost in your business might be power,
Yeah, sure.
you know, versus labor. That was great 15 years ago, but we don't have the position now. I'm glad you brought that up. Lose our economic development competitiveness.
We could lose existing industry.
Yep.
Let's go on something else. Threats are too gloomy.
You feel threatened by that,
I didn't
Well,
want to
so
mention,
far, you've got way more opportunities, so
That's a good thing.
that's a good thing.
We could see increased employee turnover, which we were already seeing. And that will result in a reduction of system reliability.
Do you want me to put that under or
It's
separate?
just another one. But it's kind of like the domino. We have pretty darn good system reliability, and we take it for granted. And it didn't used to be that way.
Any others?
Well, if we talk about one of our strengths of our current system is when something tears up, it gets fixed because the local people are here to fix it. There is a threat if we should sell off our utilities that things may not get fixed as quickly.
Okay.
In other words, response times from another company may, it's a threat, may go up.
Response time.
Response times decreased.
Right.
if sold.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
One of the threats that's always bothered me, and is it's a threat it's an external threat in that it's not part of Danville Utilities, but having an elected body being the decision makers of that utility. I know that's going to rub some people wrong, but that's politics and running electric utilities don't really go hand in hand.
Capture that adequately.
I'm not sure I agree with the if sold. It's definitely if sold, but with large turnovers, employees leaving, reduced number of employees, response time would still decrease.
Sure. Right.
Oh, yes, that's right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that. Response time, because that's the negative. it takes longer, yes.
And you can scratch
So
out.
you
if
scratch
so.
out if sold. Thank you for that.
Oh, is that what we're saying?
If you, to me, if you look at it,
Yeah.
if you take out the whole idea of it's gonna be sold or not, I guess what the point is,
Yeah.
an experienced staff that's trained and we have turnover, and then you get less efficient, less experienced, savvy people, and your response times go down on your repair work, and you're getting the system back up.
And that's,
And people think that's really important.
They do,
To
very
me, I found that out in the last 4 or 5 months from just people talking to me
well, that,
on the street. I mean,
that comes to the system being reliable,
Right.
it being, properly preventively maintained, and then being able to respond in times of emergency. And yes, I think the utility, despite all of its management turnover, et cetera, over the last 15 years, has really worked hard and has improved the reliability tremendously of the system. People here enjoy a state of service that is difficult to match in the area.
And that would not be the case if there wasn't a local component.
It
Certainly
will not be the case.
So I think we need to distinguish that from what perspective you're looking at it. If you're looking at it, if we continue to maintain it, you say you're gonna have that if you lose expertise. But if you sell the facility, I feel certain the response time will not be as great.
Right, exactly.
That's what I said. I agree. I would agree with if sold, but not only if sold.
How about if I just
It
added
could
in?
continue, it could be a threat with employee turnover, a decrease in employees. Many factors could cause that threat to become a reality.
What if I qualify this, response times increase particularly if sold?
I have an idea. Increased employee turnover / utility sale leading to reduced system reliability, response times increased.
Okay.
If you're okay with that?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about either or.
Okay, so increased employee turnover / if sold.
Or sale. Okay, and then under it, put a dash in front of reduced and a dash in front of response times. Yeah, there you go. And underline, just like that, perfect. Now we get it.
Okay. Other threads?
A threat would be the ability to respond to catastrophic conditions. That would involve financing. You don't need to write that, but you don't need to write the financing part.
Right. Good.
does anybody have anything else? Anyone from the public have anything? You want to end there? Or with this portion of the program? Sure. So that's the list.
Yeah.
What's on the program?
So what is the product going to be?
We're gonna go with recommendations at some point.
Well, I mean, what is the product going to look like for this? Who's going to take it and make it a document?
We're going to have a meeting on April the 13th. It's a Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
Is it possible to start that meeting at 9? You're already blowing my morning with patience, and I could see some afternoon at that. You started at
Well,
9 o'clock, just right, blows a hole in the morning.
we
How
have
long do you anticipate it'll take?
probably about 3 or 4 hours. 3 hours, maybe 3 hours.
Start at 9, get through by noon. We'll have to move about 20 patients already, but it's a lot easier to start, move the morning and then it just cuts the hole in the morning, 10 o'clock.
Can you do that? Can you do 9? I could do 9.
Do you have any problem with that? Does anybody have any problem moving till 9 o'clock?
Yeah, I do, but I make it.
Oh, but you got the same problem I have.
Oh, you're gonna... Can't get up that early.
I'll turn the alarm clock a little early.
You need a wake-up call?
Yeah, I don't get a wake up. I can't drink coffee that early in the morning, Doc, I tell you.
I get up at 5, so...
Well,
Are we going to need to bring coffee too?
Coffee, donuts.
all right, 9 o'clock. Now, Mr. Shanks, the question was,
I'm sorry, I guess I saw some emails. What exactly is this meeting? 9 a.m.?
9 a.m., we're now going to meet at 9 a.m. on April 13th. Please make a note of that, on April 13th, Monday.
And what exactly is this meeting going to?
That meeting is going to be the beginning of of writing the report.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about issues, actions, and recommendations. And we're going to begin to craft the recommendations to the City Council and the Utility Commission.
So we're gonna take what we've done so far from these things and turn some of these into recommendations.
Well,
So we are meeting on the 23rd, Monday the 23rd.
The Utility Commission is meeting on Monday the 23rd, and you are invited. I know. And you're invited because PJM and AEP are coming in to talk about transmission charges and about our congestion charge we had last winter. I believe that's one of the issues that
Are
they
we
wanted
meeting
to
on the
address.
30th?
No, sir, we're going to meet on April the 13th. That's the next time this committee will meet.
Is Duke Power not going to make a presentation?
Let me discuss this with you after the meeting, okay? Can I?
Sure.
Duke's coming, that's another meeting we're having at 1 o'clock on the 23rd. And but we're having 2 meetings on the 23rd, which is next Monday. That's Utility Commission, not committee, okay? So on April the 13th, we're going to do...
Will you send all this to us in an email?
Sure. Thank you.
Be good.
Yeah, well,
I saw you
I'm
Jason.
reiterating what I said at the beginning of this, so I was hoping, but that's...
Some of it's so good.
The
Until just a
April the
couple of minutes
13th is when we're going to sit down and start talking about writing a report from which the SWOT analysis is where it's gotten us.
All right, something we need to do, okay?
Yes, sir.
This, when we get ourselves to where we think about strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats, we're going to have to go through a process where we group these. The best way that I know to group them is to put them on big sticky notes that we can move around and have a big wall to move them around on, because a lot of this stuff is linked. So we need a tool set that allows us to very agilely move, in particular, the weaknesses and the opportunities. Because generally speaking, there's not much you can do about threats. You can mitigate threats, but you can't do much about them. So is that something that we can arrange? And I can kind of help you figure out how to do that if you'd like. And then we're going to need a place where we have some walls to use. And that presents a challenge in this room.
If you wanted this, I don't know if you want to start. The other option that I thought about earlier is using a different color marker, particularly on those weaknesses, and just do like an A and B, or letters that could help. It wouldn't be maybe as visual as what you're talking about with the sticky notes, but we could actually start that if you wanted to.
Sure.
We can figure out the logistics of all that between now and 13.
It'll help. We get up, move around.
Are we going to be out with a facilitator at 9 o'clock on the 13th?
Should not be a problem at all. Circle
Okay.
back around.
All right. Is there anything else anybody would like to add?
Okay, so let's think about this a little bit. So let's say we determine that, I'm just going to pick an example here, that an opportunity would be for us to generate our own power behind the gates. So then you have, that asks the question, yeah, great, that's an opportunity. At what rate? It's an opportunity that really is going to depend on what the investment's going to be and at what forecasted rate we could generate that power at, after we account for financing, et cetera. So how are we going to, or let's say we want one, we're going to evaluate I don't know, let's pick another one. If we're going to address, hey, disaster planning is important, we could ask that the utility director make that an important part of the next year's plan. That's something that could be very specifically addressed. But some other things are going to take some analysis because they're bold steps. So, Philip, after we complete the work on the 13th, is there going to be some additional analysis that we're going to need to do before we make some conclusions?
What I see happening here is we're going to have a report, and we're going to make recommendations to City Council and to the Utility Commission, because I believe that when you start talking about acquiring behind the meter assets for generation,
Just as an example.
that is going to be, for instance, that's going to be a process that I believe is going to end up going back to Utility Commission. So what we're trying to do here is to bring forth the issues that we have found in our examination of this in the last 4 months, the issues that are important, the actions that are possible to be taken in order of how critical they are and how doable they are, and then to make those recommendations to City Council. And City Council and the Utility Commission then can work toward addressing these issues. Some of them, as you say, are action memos that can immediately be implemented, and others are going to have analysis planning, their longer term projects. But the mandate will be that these issues will be addressed and they will come to some resolution.
Okay, now I'm going to wrap up one other question. Thank you. So it sounds like it's a process. Now, generally, in a strategic planning effort, there's 3 other things that are produced. One is a statement of what our purpose is. What's Danville's electric utilities purpose? That's generally something that's generated. The second thing is what's our mission? And sometimes purpose and mission are combined. But then the third is, what do we aspire to be in 5 years? What's our vision? Where do we want to go?
Right.
And I think if we don't have that clarified, it's going to be difficult for us to get through this SWOT analysis and prioritize things. So will our consultants be able to help us on that?
Covered in the strategic plan.
Right.
And the question is whether we are going to do the strategic plan or were we going to, or who is going to do it. I would think a very thought out strategic plan would involve not only the Utilities Commission, but employees.
Staff and employees, that's right.
And maybe even a consultant. I hate to mention that, Fred, but
I think that's a perfect idea. I think experts in the field are always good.
Some of these things I think we can suggest directly. I think greater involvement of the Utility Commission as selecting director, to me, is a no-brainer.
Right.
Because what we're doing isn't working.
that's
We've
right.
done in the past. Now, we'd have to, we can make that recommendation to the Utilities Commission, and then it has to go on, I guess, to council or whoever, but some of these things we can recommend, but other things, the strategic plan would be done just like you said, John.
And-
That's not our duty to make a strategic plan here, it's to suggest one be
But we,
implemented.
it is our duty to recommend, if we all feel that, to
Right.
recommend a strategic plan.
Exactly.
And then we would have something like, you know, an investment behind the gate would be a strategic initiative for consideration,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Does that make sense? I just want to make sure I have a clear picture of what these folks are going to be asked to do.
What I'm seeing us do all that morning long is to finalize, or not finalize, but at least begin our recommendations to the Utilities Commission and City Council.
Okay.
And maybe we can finalize it, but at least begin
so.
that process of agreeing upon our recommendations.
So recommendations of, you know, for operational implementation, you know, we want to do this and we want to do this now. And then perhaps,
I think the first one and the biggest one is sale or not sale. You know, I think that
Right.
we're expected to give some type of guidance on that. That's the purpose of having the committee. And then after we iron that out,
right,
which one we decide, we make recommendations to follow that.
well, that would be a strategic recommendation, right?
Right.
I would think, going back to what you initially said, it would seem to me after that initial discussion took place, a mission and a vision would be appropriate as part of this report.
I think it kind of defines, I think it's something that needs to be considered. Because otherwise, you leave that alone, and then you're going to have to follow through with with a strategic initiative, which is going to take 6 to 12 months to finish. And you're still going to be twiddling your thumbs.
And I guess we need to decide if we need to separate strategic plans for electric, gas, water,
I think you do.
technology.
Absolutely, I think you have to in this business. But that's something that you all need to decide as city council, I think.
Yeah, city council needs to be involved with that.
That's a city
The-
council
the,
decision.
Our portfolio here only includes power and light, the way I understand.
Right.
Right.
But certainly there will be some, I think there'll be some spillover as you move forward with that relationship that the Utility Commission, which represents all the utilities, has with council. I
So-
think you'll end up with that in all the utilities.
So for instance, if we're going to come forward with a recommendation as an example where we say, well, we're not going to sell, we're recommending that the city not sell the entire electric utility, but that it considers selling its industrial distribution. Well, then that says we're making a recommendation that our mission is to provide, you know, electric service to our residential and consumer customers. and focusing in that particular market. That has that is a very much that's a shift in the mission of the utility.
That's right. It changes the vision.
And I think we do need to wordsmith that just as a recommendation.
That's why we're going to have another long meeting.
Yeah.
Because I believe we've got to be very careful in not limiting ourselves as to where we're going to go, at least this early.
And Dr. Miller, I don't think you ought to plan any appointments till after 1 o'clock.
Does anyone have anything else?
Nope.
That
Yes,
is a
sir.
luncheon meeting.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
One thing that we did not really review or address was the other parties / other information we may need.
That's it.
Is that something you want to take a minute and just talk about? I know there were some things.
Yeah, let me comment on that, Kevin. And when this list was originally put together, this last section here about other parties / information was a checklist and a list of some other things that we wanted to get to. And as I look at this very quickly, we have pretty much done all those other things, or we're getting ready to do them. I appreciate you pointing that out, but I believe we will have taken care
Good seeing you.
of our contact, our analysis of these folks after next Monday. So I appreciate you pointing that out. So, nobody from the public? Staff have anything to say? Thank you all for being with us. Kevin, thank you so much for coming and being with us. We
Nice
really
job. Thank you.
appreciate
My pleasure.
you coming and being with us. We'll get these lists out as quickly as possible, I'm sure. And does anyone else have anything to say? That's correct, next Monday. 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock across the hall. All right, well, thank you all very much for coming, and thank you all very much for the meeting. Meeting adjourned.